brass ring. March 30th arrived with the momentum of a slamming iron door. Harsh, final, and shocking. This last day at the office took Frank by surprise, as he was much more drained than he anticipated. He was exhausted emotionally and physically. During the past year, his excitement rose as the brass ring of retirement was finally in reach. Ironically, on this day, when the coveted ring was in his hands, there wasn't the exhilarating feeling he anticipated. This was a surprise, as he was always in control and predicted outcomes accurately. He was the master of management and strategic planning. He felt like a flat tire. At 5 o'clock sharp that day, Frank's colleagues were assembled in the mahogany-paneled boardroom for the last farewell. Frank's usual sense of duty to putting closure to every event in his life was not as intense. People assembled with downcast eyes and forced smiles. Although there was an awkward fidgeting amongst guests as if they couldn't wait to be dismissed, every person in attendance managed to muster the emotional courage to approach Frank and bestow him with thanks and praise for his work ethic, leadership, enthusiasm, kindness, humor, and integrity. It was obvious he was well loved by his team, and they were not looking forward to saying goodbye. Frank's boss took charge of the tense moment by reflecting on Frank's stay with their department over the past 6 years. Handing him a card, he explained that inside was something that he could use towards his two passions, traveling and seeing his daughter and grandson. He ended his presentation with, "Frank, you're a true gardener. Like a master gardener, you have nurtured this department, creating a dynamic, flourishing culture. You've inspired us all here with your integrity, responsiveness, ability to balance priorities, and abundance of initiative. Through your servant leadership, you've instilled trust and inspiration in all of us here. Thank you, and you will be greatly missed." Applause and tears released the awkward tension in the room, and Frank smiled and felt deep appreciation for the warm words. He looked around the crowd and realized that he had been through a lot with these people. They had initiated and implemented many innovative changes, supported him during Lily's illness, and offered friendship. He trusted everyone like family. Just like family, sometimes the members took each other for granted, and this was one of those warm and fuzzy moments when everyone was a brother or a sister. Frank knew it was time for him to speak. Surprisingly, he felt a sense of peace and strength. After taking a very deep breath, Frank addressed the crowd, explaining that his experience in the department was the best possible ending to an exciting career. He gave tribute to each person in the room by simply highlighting how each of them inspired or supported him over the past 6 years. He concluded, "Our team was an example of synchronicity, something you don't always find, an experience when the whole is greater than the sum of the parts." People in the room smiled, nodded, applauded with enthusiasm. Hugs and handshakes filled the room, and in no time, several of the party animals were encouraging everyone to move out to the next venue for supper. As everyone poured out, Olivia and Frank were left, regrouping for the second half of the evening. "Dad, I'm proud of you. Your speech touched everyone. You are one class act. I wish Mom was here." They embraced, and then Frank briskly took charge with a strong and definite command. "Let's go to the party. We have something to celebrate." After the party, the day ended with another farewell, hugs and kisses, and a silent ride back to the suburbs. Thankfully, this time he didn't have to worry about the maneuvering through aggressive drivers on the Highway 401, which sliced through the Greater Toronto area. The driver was clearly at ease with the intense, busy traffic, as he wasted no time driving at high speed to Frank's suburban retreat in Oakville. Frank looked out at the flashing lights of the city, pelting the window. For a moment he felt like he was in a time warp, traveling through space. He found himself in a surreal state, pondering the day. Retirement. He welcomed it with bittersweet emotions. In the late 30s, the novelty of working full-time wore off. He raised a family, rose up the corporate ladder. However, he couldn't enjoy the benefits he was accumulating due to his demanding workload. At this point, he started to wonder whether all the hard work was worth it if he couldn't enjoy the perks. Now he made his final exit, and the feeling wasn't so exciting. Everything he stood for during the last 50 years was over. Oh, yes, he was a father, now grandfather, husband, that had not changed, but these roles had not given him his full definition of character. Now, sadly, what defined his sense of being was work. And now it was over. He needed to regroup, redefine himself, and decide what was important in his life. Something Olivia had said to him that day was resonating to his core. She approached him at breakfast and asked, "Dad, if you could do it all over again, would you have not given so much to the office and more to us?" He confidently and proudly gave her a curt response. "How can you ask this? Of course not. You are asking that I denounce everything that I was? My existence for the last 50 years? No, I wouldn't have changed a thing." Now, hours later, his conversation rang in his ears like a gong. He couldn't escape the incessant repetition of, "Would you have done it all over again? Would you give more to your family or to the office?" The vehicle stopped in front of his 2-story home. He paid the driver and tipped him handsomely. As he walked up his cobblestone entrance, a sense of isolation crept over him. He stood alone in front of his 5-bedroom, upper-middle-class suburban home. He missed Lily, and he was left with a cold sense of loss and numbness. Before retirement, he washed away these feelings with his obsessive commitment to work. He could no longer hide behind this shield. His only daughter promptly left after the retirement party, back to her family in England. She was not expected to return until the end of the summer, when her husband's work contract was over. Another layer of isolation blanketed him. The loss of his wife, coupled with the arrival of the grim reaper of retirement, struck a lone chord in his heart. This was the first time he noticed his home had a quiet echo. Grabbing a scotch, he retired to the opulent bedroom. He couldn't wait to roll into the silken smooth Egyptian cotton sheets of his king-size mahogany canopy bed. Sliding into this sacred retreat from the world, he picked up a business magazine. One sip of scotch in an attempt to read gave way to a blurred state at the glossy pages. His eyes welled, and emotions percolated in the depths of his regal being. Nothing was penetrating his mind. He turned off the light. A salty tear hit the pillow. In the solitary silence of his own humility, he lay in the dark of the night. At the end of his last day of work, one question hovered like the steady buzz of a pestering mosquito. Would he change anything if he had to do it all over? The answer to the question needed to be re-examined. Would he change how he handled his career and family life? Would he? Would he?